Disposable VMs is a very common practice across penetration testing. It helps you to not only cover the traces but also in general penetration testing workflow. Using disposable VMs is considered a best practice in any penetration testing engagement, from wireless penetration testing to a web application penetration testing. The main idea of disposable virtual machine is having one virtual machine in per engagement. This makes your penetration testing workflow way easier, since every time you start the penetration testing, you have a fresh new virtual machine, and without any configuration from previous client. You don't need to configure every time. And when you finish your penetration testing engagement, you can simply archive the virtual machine or destroy the data by deleting the virtual machine. As your data will be out contained inside one VM, you don't need to hunting the files in your system for deletion. Everything is in one place. Also, disposable virtual machine provide client segregation, which you avoid, because where you mix the data from two clients and you don't want the data from company A being the same virtual machine where data from company B is stored. So having virtual VMs is will avoid the data contamination. The meaning that each virtual machines will have the data from only just one client. Also, the use of virtual machine make the process of data destruction way easier, because all the data is contained and encrypted just in one place. So let's look at some of the good practices when working with disposable virtual machines. As mentioned before, it is important to have one virtual machine per engagement. Never use the same virtual machine for more than one client. Since you don't want to mix up the data from previous client, it is also a good idea making this as an habit. Whenever starting a new project, create a new virtual machine, and whenever finishing some project, then archive or delete them to make this process very much convenient or very much easier. You may create few virtual machine templates. So personally, I have 3 or 4 templates that I use. So for example, for penetration testing template, I basically use a list of virtual machine and copy out the custom script that I use to the desktop. And also I also made sure that the network was working and the driver were installed with that one. So I saved a virtual machine in a port and that in my template library. So now every time I start a new client, I simply just copy the virtual machine that I modified, then the password, and then start to use it. And also remember, each virtual machine should have its own defined password. Do not use the same password for all your clients, and make sure you use the defined password for each of your clients. And talking about the password, which is a very important thing is to encrypt the hard drive of a virtual machine. If you are booting the machine player, if your virtual machine player doesn't have this feature, you can simply increase the virtual machine files, and with some encryption tools such as that can be prepared. So never leave the virtual machine encrypted. And nowadays use one password for each point. So never use the password, and to make sure you will never lose your working process. And then create of the device backup. I personally have an encrypted external hard drive where I keep all my virtual machines from previous clients. It is a double layer encryption because the external hard drive is fully encrypted, and the virtual machine files are also encrypted with defined passwords. So I think it is a little bit of paranoia, but if you are in the security field, you need to do the good practices, and this will help you to get better in all of those techniques. So in terms of data description, this is whenever you are finishing your engagement, and if you don't require the data anymore, so make sure you delete the virtual machine that you are using. So there are some open source tools for Windows and Linux for the security deletion, but if you keep everything encrypted, even if someone like any other attacker is able to recover the files, the files will be encrypted, and that's why it is important to keep everything encrypted, which includes like your reports and notes and etc. So that's the basic uses of, and that's all you need to know about the disposable virtual machines.